All right. What teams within the NFC East will have 8 wins over or under? All right. So, NFC East. I've got the Philadelphia Eagles at the top spot, followed by the Washington Redskins, aka the Commanders, followed by the Cowgirls in the third spot, and then last place, the New York Little Giants. Dallas Cowgirls are going to fall this season, basically, in my honest opinion. So, Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champions. Thank God they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They have Jalen Hurts still in there at quarterback. Doesn't really have to do a whole lot of passing because they have Saquon Barkley, who just put up crazy amount of numbers because they have a phenomenal offensive line. Saquon Barkley with over 2,000 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns. If this guy ever gets hurt, that can change the whole dynamic on their offense, in my opinion. Even though they have weapons at receiver, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, those guys have been reliable. They pick up Jahan Dotson, another former Penn State player, wide receiver. A.J. Brown with over 1,000 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns. You got Devontae Smith with 833 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. Jahan Dotson didn't do a whole lot, but I know he can do a whole lot. But it was smart that they picked him up.
Yeah.
They have Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert. They also signed A.J. Dillon, who was a previous Green Bay Packer. I guess he can help out with pushing some rears for the tush push. He had a stinger, so A.J. Dillon didn't even play the whole season last season. They have Will Shipley in there, who's their second string running back. So if their guy, Saquon Barkley, gets hurt, this can change the whole dynamic of this team here. I don't think they have a backup running back on this team, but maybe perhaps they go out and they draft one. They have some questionables on their team at the moment. Landon Dickerson looks hurt. Cam Jurgens, their center, is somewhat hurt. Defensively, well, overall, they lost a bunch of players, I guess, in free agency, but they also signed some players during free agency, so who knows what their defense will be about, but they still got their corner, Cooper DeJean, who was basically one of their, he was like a Super Bowl hero in that team.
That's one of the deciding factors.
Yeah, he caught an interception, got a pick 6. Other teams should have went out and drafted him, the Packers, but they didn't. But yeah, so here we are now. This is the team, the Philadelphia Eagles. They got a target on their back now that they're Super Bowl champs. What adjustments do teams out there need to do so that they can be able to beat a Super Bowl champ team? Philadelphia Eagles, I predict that they will take the division. I predict that they will get over 8 wins as long as Saquon Barkley stays healthy. Otherwise, they fall apart like a bunch of dominoes. And I think that they get 10 wins this season.
Yeah. So, the biggest concern, a lot of teams, I mean, obviously we have the Kansas City Chiefs who have proven they can get to the Super Bowl multiple times in a row. But a lot of teams recently have been getting Super Bowl hangovers, which means they go to the Super Bowl and the following year they struggle to get back. I think the Eagles would not have too much of an issue. I think they're going to be kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs when they came back from the Super Bowl they lost back in, I can't even remember, it was against Tampa Bay. So they are going to be able to get back into the playoffs. Even though they lost Kellen Moore to the New Orleans Saints, picking him up as the head coach, looking at their schedule and the difficulty, it doesn't really present a difficulty. It's going to be right around, I have as low as 10-7, the high as 12-5. So right in the middle is 11. Vegas says 11.5. So pretty close and accurate what we're going to see this season, minus things happening like Jalen Hurts doing one of those tush pushes and somebody ends up doing what a lot of these ESPN commentators are all saying is to just jam him at the A-gap, and what it would do was actually hurt him and actually probably hurt him for a long time. So I know a lot of people, including the Green Bay Packer fans, hate the tush push. I just don't like it because it presents a QB to an extra harm. But in all honesty, the guy's bench pressing a Mack truck and squatting an elephant. So I think he'll be fine.
I don't like it because the person who has the ball is not really in control. They have two people pushing on that person's rear to get across a line, you know?
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's just, to me, the Philadelphia Eagles that took whatever they want to call it, is they're playing with some dynamite when it comes to that play, because if a team really wanted to, they could put three people in that A-gap. One goes and heads up the center, and the other two go right to the A-gap and just jam it.
I mean, think about it this way. What if a team goes out and gets a midget on their team, and they get two guys to throw this midget across the line? That's almost equivalent to a freaking push-tush.
I know we're playing some...
you get what I'm saying? It's crazy.
I know you're trying to... We're playing a little hypotheticals in here, but honestly, that's not the case. Every team's trying to duplicate the tush push, but to me, I think it's a huge risk. Once teams figure out how to beat it, and the only way to beat it is to knock a guy out of the field.
Yeah.
And I think with the NFL, they need to look into this as a safety concern for their players, because if he gets hit just right, we're talking about Jalen Hurts gone for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
We've had too many neck injuries in the NFL, and that play, if stopped right, it's going to cause a back injury or neck injury. But above or worse, a concussion, like they need another concussion issue.
Yep. So how many wins do you say? 10 wins? 11?
I said 11. Vegas says 11.5, so it's pretty close.
All right. Washington Commanders. They go out and they get Jaden Daniels, who does phenomenal at quarterback. The guy puts up 25 passing touchdowns, only 9 interceptions. I think he even ran the ball. He ran the ball for 891 yards and ran for 6 touchdowns, so a combination of 31 touchdowns for him. They have Brian Robinson at running back, Terry McLaurin. Now they go out and they get Deebo Samuel. To me, it's kind of like rolling a dice, because he may or may not put up numbers. Deebo seems like a very injury-prone player, in my honest opinion. He's getting up there a little bit in age. He's 29 now, but still fairly young.
Yeah.
They have Zach Ertz. Isn't he getting up there in age too? I know he's been playing football for a little bit. He's 34. But it was a huge surprise just to see the success of this team in actually making it to the playoffs and then going in there and beating the Lions. But they just couldn't get over the hump against the Philadelphia Eagles. Defensively, not too many names really stand out in my honest opinion, but the offense was really key for that team. They were actually going for it on 4th down quite a bit, kind of like the Detroit Lions. Kind of a gamble in that sense, but I think that the Commanders will be just as good as last season, if not better, because I think Jaden Daniels is going to continue to progress. If Jaden Daniels gets hurt, of course, this team will fall like a bunch of dominoes too. Marcus Mariota is their backup. So I see this team at least 10 wins.
Yeah. So me and Vegas are having a little bit of a problem here. So I think the Commanders are a good team. The problem is last year they got the benefit of having a weak schedule. All quarterbacks have sophomore slumps. It's just about the severity of that slump. So the big question mark for the Commanders is what Jaden Daniels will go through as far as the sophomore slump.
Yeah.
And another thing is, like I just said, the strength of schedule. They're facing all the number twos. These aren't just mediocre teams anymore. These are guys that are fighting for a playoff position, and you're going to have your team playing the best, and you're going to have to figure it out and wait out the storm. Dan Quinn's very capable of doing so, but it's going to take his quarterback taking some big steps and understanding that mistakes are going to happen, wait it out, and continue to play. Vegas is saying 6.5 wins for the Commanders because of the schedule. I went from the lowest they can go was about 6-11, the highest being 10-7. But to me, honestly, it's going to be 8 wins. Realistically, even with the schedule coming out, it will be 8 wins. Only because it's a big it's going to be a big step up for Jaden Daniels. It's not Chicago Bears who don't know how to stop a Hail Mary anymore. It's going to be teams that are always going to be in the fight for the playoffs. It's always going to be the coaches are very well prepared for him. So it's going to take him to understand he's going to have to up his ante and understand mistakes happen and just move on.
Yeah, I think they're absolutely going to get 4 wins and sweep the Cowgirls and the Little Giants this season, though. So that's 4 wins right there.
I think 3-3.
You think they're going to split within the division?
I think it's just going to be a struggle with the Eagles.
Oh yeah, of course.
I think they can split it with the Cowboys. I definitely think they can beat the Giants unless something happens with the quarterback position.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of Cowgirls, the Dallas Cowgirls. Dak Prescott, the highest paid quarterback in the entire league, getting paid $60 million a year, gets hurt last season. I don't think that they would have gotten far anyway, even if he played. CeeDee Lamb, he's okay. He's their number 1 receiver. They go out and they get Miles Sanders, who's not good. Devontae Williams is their starting running back, apparently. He was on a different team last season. He only had 513 rushing yards. To me, looking at this team, their biggest weakness is their running back position, which kind of affects their passing game. So most teams will just set up for the pass because the rushing game is not all that phenomenal. They have Jonathan Mingo, former Carolina Panther, somehow. Jake Ferguson, their tight end. Well, who the heck is their backup quarterback? Will Greer. They're probably going to draft another quarterback or sign a quarterback. Defensively, they didn't seem all that tough, except for, Micah Parsons, of course, is their top defensive end. But I don't see this team taking the division. The Eagles are just a whole lot better. I think the Commanders are better than this team at this point. Now, if they go out and they get Ashton Genty in the draft, that might transform this team. But who knows if he will be available by the time it's time for the Cowgirls to make their selection. So I don't think the Cowgirls are going to get over 8 wins. They might get 7. I think they get 7 wins.
Yeah, I think they have a new head coach, which is a very controversial opinion. Schottenheimer, he's a good guy. However, is he the answer for them as head coach? No. I think Jerry Jones should have done a little bit more research and understood that he wasn't ready. They should have gotten they should have gave him the reins while firing Mike McCarthy, so they can see what they got before blindly signing him as the head coach to start the next year. So, looking at their schedule, and I know Vegas has said 9.5, and again, I'm going to disagree with them. I think they are very close to being 6-11 and 7-10. So, right around 6.5 wins this upcoming year because of the fact they continue to shoot themselves in the foot. They didn't get a running back last year, and Rico Dowdle, yes, he was good, but you didn't get an answer that when he's out, because when Dowdle went out, their rushing game sucked.
Yep.
When Dak Prescott went out, Cooper Rush tried his best. That's why he got re-signed somewhere else. But it's these little things that they continue to shoot themselves in the foot that's going to continue to make them irrelevant when it comes to the Super Bowl. So all those Dallas Cowboy fans that like to put, the Super Bowl champs of the next year, you might as well just go ahead and skip that appointment, because they're not going to be in the Super Bowl until Jerry Jones finally does his research, backs off, gets a GM that knows what he's talking about, and gets this team to where it needs to be.
Yeah, and Jerry Jones is getting up there in age, so.
And Stephen Jones is not any better. Anybody that thinks that he is, he's a clone of his dad.
And you reminded me, Mike McCarthy got canned, so you're going into a new season here with a new head coach. You don't know how good he's going to be for this team.
Exactly. They knew they were.
They have no promising running game. You look at the stats; these guys don't have. They don't even have. I don't think they have over 600 rushing yards the past season. So it's going to be interesting for sure. I'm not really a huge fan of the Cowgirls. I think they're going to get clobbered by the Eagles and the Commanders. I don't think, maybe the New York Little Giants might beat them one of the games out of the two.
It depends on quarterback.
Yeah.
When we talk about the Giants, it's that team. If they don't get an answer for their quarterback position, they're going to be picking the top 3 picks in the draft next year.
Oh yeah. So how many wins do you think?
Cowboys 6.5. So the New York finishers, until they prove that they can be Giants, the biggest thing is they need to get a quarterback, whether it's Cam Ward, Shador Sanders.
Wait, talking to Giants? Talking about Giants?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to the Giants. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So the Giants, the biggest thing is who's their quarterback going to be, and because if it's going to be DeVito, you can go ahead and just kiss the season goodbye. Go ahead and sell your season tickets if you're in the New Jersey area, because you ain't going to see a winning team out there unless you root for the other team. They have no way of winning without somebody that's going to be dynamic. They tried to do it with Daniel Jones, winning it and having Saquon Barkley, and then they found out, you still need a quarterback. Then they tried last year without Daniel Jones and trying to make do with what they got, and they found out you still need a quarterback. So this year, if they don't draft a quarterback, it's going to be a problem. And I guarantee you, any quarterback, I'm going to include even the 7th round projected quarterbacks in this draft, are better than DeVito will ever be. And if the Giants don't pick them and Dabble doesn't grow up and stop being so freaking lazy when he's calling offenses, because he has been very complacent in his job. Somebody needs to light a little fire underneath his pants and get him working, because right now, even Vegas is like, this is going to be the number 1 team to pick next year's draft. They say 4.5. I'm looking at their schedule. It's 3.5 wins. They're going to be picking number 1 again.
Yeah. Yeah, this team, the New York Little Giants, they absolutely must go out and draft a QB probably, what is it, Cam Ward or the other guy that doesn't even want to be on the team from Colorado, Sanders.
I mean,
Shadir Sanders.
Yeah, I can look up all these quarterbacks that are going to be better than what they have. DeVito? Is that really your answer?
He's more of a backup, so yeah, he's the only guy on the roster. Tommy DeVito is the only guy on the roster, so they're going to have, they're probably going to draft a quarterback. Malik Neighbors, when he got drafted, he had the reaction of he didn't really want to be on the team, but he still put up amazing numbers. 1,204 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns. Numbers could be even higher if they had a good quarterback, but yeah, DeVito's not the answer. He's more of a backup role.
And right now, on NFL.com, they're talking about Jackson Dart being the third QB off the board, and the Giants pick him. So it's looking more and more and more like they need to find the answer.
Yep.
I'm looking at all these other quarterbacks they have in the draft, and I can tell you right now, every single one of them are better than DeVito. Not even close.
Absolutely. I think they just signed him for like promotion purposes. Like, oh, he's an Italian in New York, and we have Italians living in New York, so we got Tommy DeVito. Yeah, Tommy DeVito. You know?
I mean, they can Jalen Milroe, they can Jackson Dart, Riley Leonard, Kyle McCord, which everybody's calling a sleeper pick at quarterback because he did really excellent in the Shrine Bowl. Will Howard, Quinn Ewers, if he's going to get drafted, I don't trust him, especially the fact he couldn't beat Georgia defense, and they got to face the Georgia defense and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, but as it stands right now, New York Little Giants, they have no chance of beating the Commanders or the Eagles in this division. So right off the bat, they lose 4 games right there. They might be able to take a win against the Cowgirls, but I don't see them sweeping the Cowgirls. So they got at least 5 losses there, and I don't think they're going to go up and beat some other teams from other divisions. So as it stands right now, I see the Giants getting like 2 wins.
I mean, 3 wins, but like I said, even Vegas is putting, that was the lowest over and under that was projected next season.
Yep. That's it. All right. So that's the NFC East.
Listen up. Subscribe to Go Pack Go all day. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.